Simperapalorno. Ja igasne serap saten alpsolsodor. Soida saisar. Voidre popona uknadre uperiominmas. Sanames noralut sodale solet soibret sitsot. Anainamo veunit somerabor mogol. Palorno. Oinartsveogla onnei veotse. Leiksatse er. Leiksatse er. Jing. Bokser. Jing. Bokser.
Hello, hi, welcome everybody. Welcome all interstellar travelers to Kerbal Space Program. Finally, the greatest space exploration game ever made, and definitely one of my favorites. Now made even better by a whole lot of mods, of which you can find the full list in our court-mandated community Discord server. Now, you remember that scene from Interstellar where Matthew McConaughey is inexplicably gifted a near-future spacecraft from seemingly out of nowhere so that he can fly it through a wormhole? Yes?
It's a fake.
Fugazi, Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a
Fairy dust. We don't create We don't build anything.
No.
Well, the plan for this series is to tell the story of how NASA possibly got to that point. How do you build a space program back up to that point after the apocalypse? Where do you get the parts, the money, the audacity? Why? The Kerbal Space Center, of course. And here it is, the KSC in all of its chronically underfunded glory. This ramshackle collection of, well, shacks will one day be our gateway to the stars. However, with only a small loan of $1,000 to get us there, we'd have to be pretty frugal at the start. As such, our first port of call was the humble Mission Control Center, where we'd be able to take on public contracts to fund our more clandestine endeavors down the road. Our first contract was simple enough: do some science. The mission plan was even simpler: find out what science is. Which meant it was time to jump over to the Research and Development, or R&D wing, to figure out what all those extra shipments of fine white powder were actually for. Here is our mighty tech tree. This is where we're gonna have to go if we want to get to the other solar system. This is gonna be a real challenge. We've got a lot of science we need to do. I mean, look at that, 3,000 science to figure out how to put some hot rocks in a box and then run gas over them. That's insane. Right now we have 0 science. We don't even know what a wheel is. With our minds even emptier than our pockets, it was then time to swing by the Vehicle Assembly Building, or VAB, to design our very first rocket. Ah, Werner, that's a face a mother couldn't love. Yes, and there's our crawl away. That is a sight for some very sore eyes, let me tell you. Look at the little Kerbals running around down there. That one's holding scissors. He doesn't know how to use those. I don't think people spend enough time watching the Kerbals just run around over here. This dude's hammering the air with a wrench. That one's just doing laps. He's working on his cardio. I respect it. You know what? A healthy heart is a healthy man. What do we have over there? This guy's just pushing the... He was miming? Yep. Look at... Oh no, he's stuck in a glass box. Alright, well, let's build our comically small Stay Putnik over here. Probodobodine Stay Putnik. Fantastic name. Unfortunately for us, the idea of manned flight has not yet been invented. Living Kerbals in space, that's an insane idea. Instead, we stuff the dead ones in this ball and send them up on another rocket. Which means we'll need an antenna so that we can commune with the dead, as well as a little solid rocket booster to give us some distance here. 675 credits out of 1,000 is a little scary. We still gotta do some science after all. The cheapest science here is a lot. 800-900, we can't afford that. That's not gonna happen. However, we also can't afford a parachute. Maybe we can rely on the goodwill of the Kerbal people to provide us with some funds so that we can afford to at least, I don't know, build another one of these. Let's go ahead and add just a little kink to the fins just to keep things interesting. And name this vessel what it was always meant to be called. The Pillar 1, the foundation upon which we shall build this entire intergalactic empire. Launch. In a maneuver that could only be described as extremely Kerbal, we launched our first vessel, the mighty Pillar 1 rocket, with absolutely no means of ever recovering it. Pretty high, but not exactly suborbital. And flawless landing. Oh, we even get a little piece back. How nice. After that perfect landing, it was time to reassess our financial situation. That first flight did a lot for us, and the good people of Kerbal have decided to empty their pockets in our favor. We launched the vessel. That's $1,600 right there. We broke a land speed record of 25 meters per second, of 80 meters per second. We've gone higher and faster than anyone ever has before. And 790 meters per second? Are you insane? A land distant record of 1 kilometer? You're telling me that no one in the history of this planet has moved more than 1 kilometer? Is this where civilization began? Right here behind me? Is this... We did indeed return to the surface. I think that's a little bit of an ambitious redefining of what went down, but I'm not complaining. With 100,000 credits in our back pocket, we've got a few more options. Yes, that's right. With just one puny launch, we'd more than 100x'd our previous quarter. First the stars, then the presidency. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the infinite money glitch that many of our real-life competitors do, and so this was a one-time windfall. From now on, we'd need to be really careful to make sure we didn't run out of cash. However, what you're never going to run out of is content. Endless content. Content as far as the eye can see. As long as all the eye is seeing is the members only tab, because that's where the next episode of this very series is already live and available to channel members. You'll get all our content as soon as it's ready and while it's waiting for its scheduled release date. This might be the only time in human history that early access is actually something you want to buy into. In fact, as a little extra bonus for our recent subscribers and members, Magic has made a video on how he made the intro cinematic. You can find it on the Members tab alongside the next episode of this series. It's very interesting, and you will enjoy it. We'll be trying to make these episodes weekly, but as the mission complexity scales in Kerbal Space Program, that might slow down a little. With that in mind, let's pay another visit to the boys in white to see what they've been cooking. Okay, 11 science, and we've got stuff we need to do. Do we want basic vehicles, which will give us some structural panels, it'll give us some lights, it'll give us solar panels, which is pretty important. Or, and of course decouplers as well. Ooh, decouplers, ooh, very good. Or, do we want basic rocketry, which will allow us to go higher than ever before? I think it's gonna have to be the rocketry. I need to go space, and go space soon. Unfortunately, space is hard, expensive too. Each of these new parts comes with a hefty one-time R&D fee that we need to fork over before we could even use it. Alright, what are these new engines gonna cost me? Oh, quite a bit. Well, we got bigger rocket boosters, which is pretty good. That actually might get us all the way up to space. It's worth a try. I think the Pillar 2 is just gonna be a little bit longer. Yeah, that'll do the trick. Can also slow down the thrust a touch, just so we get out of that atmosphere a little bit more efficiently. And this time, this time we're doing science. And maybe, just maybe, we'll even bring her home. In another move that could only be described as blatant contract fraud, we launched our second rocket by going absolutely nowhere and instead just farming some science off the launch pad and runway of the KSC. Since these both count as their own biomes in the game's eyes, they each allow us to do repeated experiments on them. This gave us just enough science to unlock a simple solar panel that will allow later rockets to actually achieve something after liftoff. I also didn't love how the research tree was looking, and so cleaned it up using a dedicated mod. Now the science will be a surprise! With our grubby little paws firmly smelling of cheese, it was time to tackle some actual gameplay for a change. In order to make the most of each launch at the start, the rather insane decision was made to upgrade mission control before any other building so we could take on more contracts. Unfortunately, with insufficient funds on hand, we'd have to settle for just leaving the atmosphere first or whatever in this space simulation game. A few more science kits were stapled onto the Pillar 3, and it was promptly rolled out onto the launch pad for Bold Aerospace's third official launch. Unfortunately, the Pillar 3's pitiful batteries weren't able to last the flight, and we lost control shortly upon re-entry. Despite this, the probe landed safely, and we recovered a whopping 45 science from it too. 45 science, now we are talking. So, what can we get for it? General rocketry to go higher, to go faster, basic construction to build better rockets, flight control to actually navigate where we're going, manned technology. We're gonna put a Kerbal on the moon, but maybe we should probably leave the planet first. You know what we need? We need radial decouplers. That's the first one. Oh yeah, more boosters, more good. Which logically follows then that we need better technology. Or perhaps better rockets. Yes. With our new tech in hand, we could now push the envelope even further than before, which meant we should probably commit to a particular strategy. Enter every single engineer's worst nightmare, the administration building. Okay, and here we see our second major mod of the playthrough, which is Strategia. It completely overhauls the way that strategies are done in KSP, and specifically we're going to be focusing for now on unmanned missions. We need probes going out there, scouting out these planets so we can go there with Kerbals and exploit them so we can go even further beyond. I guess our first bet is going to be the Mun. Why send Kerbal to other planets when we can be more effective in gathering science by sending out uncrewed probes? Shall we send a probe to perform experiments on the Mun? Why yes, Werner. Yes, I think we should. So 400% funds to milestone gains for the Mun, negative 80% funds to milestone gains for other bodies. It completes when we land a probe in 3 different biomes on the Mun, which means maybe we actually want to go for Minmus first. It's a lot easier, it's a little further out, that's probably the place we want to be. Unfortunately, we can't really do either of these until we've actually orbited Kerbin, so that is the first thing on our checklist, but a new strategy would be really good, and for the low cost of double our money, we could get 2 strategies, and go even further beyond. It was time to get serious. With greater parts comes greater responsibility, which terrifies me. As such, we at Bald Aerospace shall henceforth be naming the rockets after our loyal unemployees. That way, when they inevitably blow up, it's their fault. With a couple of extra boosters and a handful of solar panels, the Senate was ready for its maiden voyage. Uh-oh. Well, we're definitely moving. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Well, we definitely got some real speed going. Okay, let's just turn that down a little bit. Yeah. I'm thinking something like so. That's probably fine. What's our thrust to weight ratio right now? On stage 4, we're still at 3.58. Yeah, that's enough. Let's make that like 1.7. That seems like a healthy place to be. 2,000 meters per second of delta V. Yeah, I'd say we're probably making it to space. In fact, why don't we go ahead and add a little Kerbal engineer redux into this thing? There we go. Make it a little bit easier to see what's going on. Oh, and let's try spinning. I hear that's a good trick. Now, it's probably worth explaining what we're aiming for here. In order to go suborbital in the game's eyes, we'll need to dip our toes outside of the atmosphere. This means achieving a maximum altitude, or apoapsis, of at least 70 kilometers. Unfortunately for us, our tracking station has never heard the phrase data visualization, and as such cannot yet give us an accurate reading of our trajectory. Future upgrades will solve this, but for now we'll just have to bust out the slide rules and eyeball it. It's a little wobbly, isn't it? Okay, the air is a little thinner. Let's actually stage that one before we decouple. And then ditch him. And now we go infinite. We are launching into a reverse orbit, I do note, but you know what? That's to boldly go, people. To boldly go. We gotta get to 70,000 meters. That's the goal to hit. Okay, future renditions could probably turn down this booster's juice a little bit. Maybe we go to 60%. Because we're wasting a lot of energy on the upper atmosphere here. Oh! Ah! Oh! Flawless! And once we leave the atmosphere here, we did lose all of our scientific experiments, we should, hopefully, complete the contract. And yes, indeed, we did. We have broken an altitude record of 70 kilometers and reached space, which has completed our Reach for the Stars contract. Very cool. Very cool indeed. What does our trajectory look like? Oh, okay. We actually got into a pretty solid orbit. If we had more fuel, we actually might have made orbit on that launch. That's insane. All right, Senate, great job. Not much we could really do for you, except to ditch that piece, prime the parachute, and wish you the best of luck. Okay, back into the tracking station. And you know what? Let's just take a little gander at the system around us. So here's Kerbal in all of its glory. Absolutely beautiful, isn't she? And then a little further out, we've got the Mun. And even further beyond that is Minmus. And all the way out. Way outside the system is our destination. Ooh, no spoilers just yet. Turns out, plasma is hot. While the Senate may have been lost with all hands, the mission itself was still an incredible success. It was clear, though, that we would need to be able to control the vessel if we were going to ever make orbit with it. Aside from just the upfront cost of all the new parts, we'd also need some more science to make this happen. Enter parts testing missions. After several days of wanton artillery fire, I would do this even if I wasn't getting paid to. We stumbled into an absolute treasure trove of potential science cheese. The game had gifted us some rover wheels. With these in hand, we could take a leisurely tour of the KSC to pick up all that science someone had just left lying around. Honestly, the cooks in R&D are getting sloppy. A quick stop over at the admin building would also guarantee that we get a little more bang for our buck. Such an unprecedented undertaking would require both a pilot and a vehicle though, and so it was that the couch potato was born. Can't forget the microwave, if we're gonna have our snacks. Okay, who's going? I think Bob? Bob, you're our first person up. Okay, Bobby boy, let's get you on the road. I wonder if that's gonna be enough juice. Well, only one way to find out. Okay, let the cheese begin. It tastes like cardboard and spray cheese. Oh, that's a taste I'm familiar with. Ah, we don't have a battery, so the solar panels aren't doing much. Okay, give me a second. Oh, look at that. Bob Kerman got the first Kerbal Surface EVA ribbon. Very cool. The very first Kerbal taking first steps on Kerbal. How did he get here? How did he get here? If not by taking steps. I have so many questions. The couch potato 2. Someone appears to have left a little something behind here. Wonder what that's about. With a whopping 140 slices of cheddar available to us now, we had some hard research decisions to make. Survivability would be good. Heat shields would be nice. Sample box would also be good, of course. You can keep stuff in there. How about over here? Basic science? Blood sample. These do add a lot of science potential. We can research this eldritch being which seems to be hanging around the KSC. Something about a squid, maybe? Cephalopod? I don't know. We also get access to a little rover. That could be handy if we can get it to the moon. The pack rat, huh? Yeah, that could be nice. There's also an RTG, but it is 37,000 credits, which is that's about 20% of our net worth, so probably not going to go for that one. And data camera, imaging science. What I'm really ramped up about here is, of course, the electronics, right? So let's go ahead and grab this. We get a little bit of a battery. We get some other pieces, some other bits even. We don't need advanced rocketry to get to orbit, so I'm actually going to sit on that. I can only get 2 more nodes. It wouldn't hurt to have general construction, mostly just for these, the stability enhancers. I'm a big fan, as well as aeroshells. That's always nice. Basic construction might also be good. You know what, struts? Struts are kind of a must-have. Do I need any of this other stuff? I mean, survivability we probably should take, right? It's not just about the escape system. We've got radial parachutes. We got our first life support tanks. We got inflatable floaties. Okay, I think we'll go with. We also get the Mark 1 command pod, which nice to have. Not necessary right now. Personal parachute, probably a good thing to keep. Although there does appear to be a bug with this mod pack where Kerbal's inventory science data does not get stored. Don't know what that's about, but it's not working. We don't really need containers just yet. We're not taking anything anywhere. So I think if we're going to spend anything, we should probably go down advanced rocketry, but that can wait. Let's see if we can get to orbit with the basic stacks. The time had finally come for us to break the surly bonds of gravity and point ourselves firmly towards the bosom of the stars. We picked up the orbital contract and then turned our attention back to the VAB. Okay, we gotta redesign this rocket for orbital flight. We're close, but not quite there on our targets. But while we're at that, I do want to show you one really cool mod that I am a huge fan of in KSP, and that is the janitor mod. This guy over here, the janitor's closet, that's what it's called. What you can do is hold left alt, right click on a part, and then block it. And what that means is it'll just hide it from this menu. It doesn't delete the part, it still loads into the game. You can unblock it anytime through this interface over here. You can also hide toolbar items, which is super useful. Super useful. You can see all the blocked parts. How amazing is that? I haven't blocked any, but for example, if we were to block this guy right over here, just in this menu, and then go ahead and click on that, show blocked, there's universal storage. Unblock. He's back. It's that easy. It just cleans up your parts list. Yes, janitor's closet, absolutely recommended for all players. Okay, we got the Octo Probe. Let's go ahead and plan out a brand new branch of democracy. Yes. Yes, this shall not be the Senate 4. No, this shall be the democracy 4. Yes, 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 there we go.
I love democracy.
The Senate rocket, now in its final form, was renamed the Democracy 4 and set loose upon an unsuspecting galaxy. What is going on? Oh, not ideal. Oh, no, 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 no. Democracy has failed. The solution is clear. More boosters. More boosters. More boosters! Or at least, you know, better ones. For those of you who do not know how to create an orbit in Kerbal Space Program, this is kind of what you've got to do. You want to fly towards the 90-degree marker, use your WASD keys to move your mouse, and you want to get yourself above the atmosphere, point to the 90-degree marker, and then burn directly. There are much more efficient ways to do this, but as a beginner, this is completely fine. Basically, what you want to do is add enough horizontal velocity by burning perpendicular to the planet. You can see I'm at 90 degrees to the surface, that you basically continue to fall around the planet without ever hitting it. That's all an orbit is. It's constantly falling towards the planet, but you're going so far sideways that you kind of just keep missing. Alright, well, this stage is going to harmlessly fall back into the atmosphere. We don't need it anymore, so let's go ahead and ditch it. That's right, this right here, this is the true form of democracy. Isn't it beautiful? Let's go ahead and actually point that down at the planet itself. If I can just find the right orientation and fire up that camera. Take a nice photo of the ocean. Add that to my cringe collection. Now, the most efficient time to add horizontal velocity to your orbit is at either the apoapsis, which is the highest point, or the periapsis, which is the lowest point. Now, I don't have the technology right now to see the exact specifics of my orbit. Unfortunately, I didn't have the parts to bring one with me, so what we're gonna do is just time warp till we're roughly at the center of this arch, right about there, and we're gonna point ourselves in the direction prograde, that is the same direction as our velocity, and we're gonna fire up this little engine. Doing this is going to, as you can see, expand the radius of our orbit so that we actually, hopefully, completely circumnavigate the planet. Now, in Kerbal Space Program, you have to be 70 kilometers above the surface in order to avoid falling back into the atmosphere. In real life, it's closer to, 300. Even the ISS at that orbit does still need to constantly burn because it, interacts with a few trace gas particles in the upper atmosphere, and that's a bit of a problem. I mean, the atmosphere, as we think about it, kind of ends pretty quickly. Probably around the, 30-kilometer mark is probably where you're basically in space. I'm sure there's a more specific definition to be found in the comments by a dude typing actually right now. But for the most part, that is kind of the idea. Everything above that point is so thin, it's almost unnoticeable to an average guy like myself, but for a spacecraft, which is zipping around really quickly, it's enough to slow you down for sure. And look at that, we have achieved an orbit, 24K, and huzzah! There is no such thing as the final frontier. In fact, we've got enough juice in this little probe to actually maneuver around quite a bit. So, what I might do is try and increase the eccentricity of this orbit, and see if we can't, or rather the inclination, which is like if we consider the equator of Kerbal here to be 0, then if we can sort of angle this upwards or downwards, we increase its inclination. And a higher inclination will mean that we just sort of cross more biomes because we're going to kind of fly around the planet in like sort of an S shape. And that's gonna intersect as many things as possible. If we get it over the poles, we could get max science, but why don't we go ahead and just see how close we can get as it is. Am I currently inclined? I am slightly inclined already. Alright, this would increase the inclination. I don't know where I am relative to my apoapsis, which does matter. Also, we want to make sure we've always got these solar panels facing the sun somewhat. There we go, just like that. I don't know if this thing will survive the night. We'll find out together as it wraps around. Okay. Arbitrarily here, we're going to add some inclination to our orbit. Now, do note, this will increase your orbital velocity because you're not burning perfectly centered. Meaning that we are actually going to push our orbit outwards slightly as well, which we don't really want to do. Yes, you might also accidentally move it inwards, which isn't really ideal. Okay, 22 meters per second. Add the last little bit, and there we go. That's our highly eccentric orbit. And what we can do now is actually go ahead, ditch that piece. We don't need it anymore. And this is our little satellite package. Very, very cute. Okay, I'm going to sit here and transmit as much data as I can to the surface before we lose power. Alright, wonderful. We do have a little bit of science left over in here, and perhaps one day we'll come back for it. But that, I would say, is a proof of success for democracy. Yes, indeed, democracy has reached towards the stars and grasped it firmly by the bollocks. Fantastic work. And with that, we have completed a whopping 286 science. Absolutely phenomenal. Safe in the knowledge that democracy was soaring above his head, Bob Kerman decided to take a bit of a stroll to contemplate the new ways in which he would have to reach out towards the stars. And as if by some kind of movie magic, many voices reached out to him through the ether, telling him the very many ways he could best optimize his route to Joule and into the wormhole, and therefore to the black hole. These voices were presented in some kind of digital comment on board a video viewing platform. All these words made very little sense to Bob, but he knew that people should absolutely get on that and let him know what's up. And also, while they're down there, they should click the little button that looks like his hand and Also, maybe click the other button that looks kind of like his head if you squint a little bit. He would also like to thank you all for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure recording this one for you, and I hope you enjoyed this weird, eclectic style, this kind of different take on producing a KSP video. First try, first time I've ever done anything like this. Hope you are not enjoying the fourth wall break here. This one is a user hostile experience, let me tell you. Thank you, big thank you to all the patrons and channel members for making this content possible. You see a little list of names right over there on the side. That's right. And if your name's already on there, well, what are you still doing here?